The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation, make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels, operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Roseburg Fire Department in Oregon, on your new apparatus, job number 29489. Please utilize this job number when referencing your vehicle with Hughes Fire Equipment or Pierce Manufacturing. Let's get started on a brief orientation of your new apparatus. Starting at the front bumper. On both right and left side, you have a bumper-mounted air horn. Moving to the driver's side, you have a mechanical siren. Moving up onto the body, on both right and left-hand side, you have turn arrows. Moving just inward in that same cluster are the low beam headlights, and moving inward from there are the high beams. Moving up onto the body is the emergency lights, and moving further up to the brow of the apparatus, you'll see running lights across the very top. Moving further up, mounted in the center, is a fixed forward mounted floodlight. Just to the right of that, or more toward the driver's side, is your opticom. Moving to the very top is your light bar or emergency warning lights. Looking underneath the front bumper, you have two on the right and left-hand side closed tow hooks. You can also see in the very front underneath the driver's side a drain for your front bumper load. Here are some close-ups of those things we just spoke about. Mounted inside the front bumper in the tub, there is an 1.5-inch swivel discharge port. These are going to be some close-up photos of the areas that we just talked about. This is going to be on the brow of the apparatus. This is the forward-facing fixed flood. Your opticom. As a general view of the driver's side, we're going to look at the mirrors. At the very top section of the mirror, there is a convex portion, in addition with a flat and a lower convex. Generalized view of the operator side of the vehicle. I'd like to direct you to the front wheel well area. This is going to be a step light. In addition with the step light, there is an air inlet. Looking at the rear section of the cab and the step, there is also a step light in this area. We're now looking at the front axle. Located in the center is a Stimco hub seal. Notice the fluid levels of oil. Looking at the rear or midsection of the cab, I'll direct you to the center of the black area here. This is your auto shore inlet auto eject. Just above that, this is your auto charger, indicating with a low battery or a fully charged battery. Looking at the very top of this section, you have a side-facing rear scene. This is the location of the cab emergency warning light. In this vehicle's current configuration, the passenger side and driver side mirror one another with components. The only difference is on the passenger side, the blue arrow indicating a right turn camera. Your vehicle is also equipped just forward of that camera to the door handle with locking door locks. This is a general view of the midship of your apparatus. We'll go ahead and start in the upper left-hand corner of this section. There are two crosslays on your apparatus, in addition with a work light just beneath that, and slightly above that is a telescoping floodlight. Let's talk about this set of light switches or set of lights underneath. There are 3 lights that will be continuously on. The 4th light will light when the pump is properly engaged. We're going to break down now into the next set of sections. red section is your foam section. The gray is your pressure and also your vacuum section. Moving to the right of that, this is going to be your throttle section and engine information. We'll talk a little bit more about those details in the next set of images. And on the very far right-hand side, you have a variety of different rocker switches that control things on your apparatus. Let's go ahead and talk about your foam system. This is the Pierce Husky Foam System 12. This is the information center where you would turn and engage the foam system with its foam flow, water flow, and percentages. To the right of that is your foam level. Just underneath that section is the Husky 12 foam system specifications and information instructions. Moving just to the right of the red placard area, you'll find a gray placard area behind the gauges. In those gauges, you're going to house the master intake, the master discharge, in addition with test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure. Moving to the right of this area, you will find your Pierce TPG. This is your throttle. This will also provide you information on battery information, temperatures, and water. There is also a do not open throttle unless light is on, which is the green illuminated light. And just beneath that is a round speaker or warning, audible warning. To the right-hand side, you can see that panel of switches. They're clearly marked to what they are, from panel lights all the way down to driver scene and floodlights. Moving down to the section just beneath that, this is going to be your number 1 crosslay. It's color-coded in yellow. This is your number 2 crosslay, coded in white. This is the next one over, is your front discharge. This is the one that's located inside the bumper. Moving to the next section over, this is your deluge discharge. And moving further over is your driver's rear discharge. Notice the ones that have a red section that say foam underneath, they have the capability of delivering foam. Upper right-hand side, this is a green indicator light for your pump engaged. Moving down from that, this is your pump drain. Moving down to the next set of valves, this is the number 1 discharge side. Moving over to the orange section, this is your number 2 passenger side discharge. Moving further over, this is the number 3 driver's side discharge. And moving further over to the wheel, this is the driver's side large diameter discharge. Once again, all of these are color-coded to the discharge. Moving to the upper right-hand side, this is your tank fill or recirculating. This is your engine cooler. Moving down from that, you'll find your water level, green being full, all the way down to red, and flashing red being almost empty. Moving down beneath that is the tank to pump. Moving just to the right of that section, this is the manual pump shift. And we'll now move to the section that's just beneath that. There are 2 discharge ports on this side. As you can see, one in red and one in the purplish color. These are both 2.5-inch discharge ports. Moving to the right-hand side, this is your large diameter intake, which currently has the tape on it. Moving just to the right-hand side of that, this is going to be your primer for your fire pump. And moving just down from that primer, this is going to be a 3-position or a 3 auxiliary foam for inlet, drain, and a strainer. As we move to the lower section, this is your Pierce placard regarding the job number. It also tells you the type that you pump in and also gives you information on your PSIs to RPMs. Next over is your auxiliary inlet, 2.5-inch inlet. Moving next over, this is going to be a flush drain. Moving further over to the right in the red section here, this is your Watrous placard, which gives you information on the type of transmission and Watrous pump that you're using. Moving down to the next section on the next section to the left, these are going to be 3 sections here for drains. Moving further over, this is going to be another drain. This is for the 2.5-inch intake. And moving over to the right-hand side, this is your manifold drain. We'll talk a little bit about what's behind the door on the right-hand side here. This is an access door, and we'll go into that here in the next few images. Once again, these are the drains for your number 1, number 3, and driver's side rear discharge. This is going to be your auxiliary side inlet for the driver's side. Moving to the right of that, this is your Watrous plaque, which gives you your pump model and transmission model for that, date of manufacture. Moving to the right-hand side was that access panel. We'll look at this access panel as we open it. Inside this is the lever for your foam. This is to allow you to fill, move the handle vertical for filling, and after you're done, remove it back to the same position for storage. As we move further down into the section of the diamond plated area, there is a tub or tubbed area for large diameter hose. Moving just forward of that, this is your foam pump intake drain and your foam pump discharge drain. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rear section of the apparatus. As we look at the rear section, we're going to focus in on the very front compartment. There are 3 adjustable shelves in this location that can be fixed, in addition with some additional storage mechanisms that you have pre-designated for your apparatus. Looking at the wheel section of the area in the 2 compartments, both front and rear of the wheel, in the front section, this is going to be where you're going to have bottle storage for your SCBAs. There are also tethers on this in case of movement. They do not fall out when the compartment door is opened. On the rear of this section, you have a DEF level indicator for the amount of DEF is in the tank. Moving just to the rear section of that, this is going to be where you're going to fill your diesel, and moving that handle down or flap down, this will gain access to fill for your DEF. This is the compartment that houses your tool board. This is a pegged mounting system. This is also adjustable from front to back in the compartment. To access the tools behind it, simply twist the silver quarter turn handle here. This will gain access to the tools that can be mounted on the rear section or tools that are mounted on the rear wall. Once this pegboard is fully extended, it will lock in its position. To restore it back to its original position, simply move to the hinge section. You'll find this mechanism where you lift, which will allow it to freely close back to its original position and be able to store it to its normal spot. There's going to be a strap handle system, which is located on the very top section of the door. This is for gaining access to the door when it's in its open position. Let's now move to the rear section of the apparatus. There are going to be 2 adjustable shelves in this location, and at the very bottom section, a pull-out shelf. Looking at the rear of the apparatus, we'll go a little bit more in depth in some of the components housed in this section. Let's go ahead and take a look at the driver's side upper rear section. You can see there is a side floodlight, in addition with at the very top a emergency warning light. Moving to the very back section of your apparatus, we'll talk a little bit about more of the components here in the next set of slides. As you can see here, as we're going to look at the lower section of the apparatus, there is LED strip lights underneath here to illuminate the ground. In addition, from underneath the cab, there's also a single attachment point in the very center, or a tow hook. Let's go ahead and move to the left-hand side. On the very bottom in the white, this is going to be a reverse light moving up, a turn, brake, and emergency light. Moving up from that location in the very center of your apparatus, you'll find a roll-up door. As we look to reveal inside the roll-up door, there is a pull-out shelf, in addition with 3 steps that fold down on each the right and the left-hand side. You can see it's now in its fully extended position. Let's go ahead and take a look at the upper left-hand corner of the rear of your apparatus. At the very top section, there is a work light in the very back, in addition with a rear-facing camera. Your vehicle is also equipped with an equipment rack. As you can see in the very top section here, this is the air-actuated mechanism to unlock the rack. This is a generalized view of the rear section of your apparatus for the hose bed. Looking at the upper section here on the left-hand side, you'll see that there is a 2.5-inch discharge port at the very front of the hose bed. Moving just to the right of that, this is going to be your general hose storage to the right-hand side. You can also see the fold-down step, the traffic advisor, and there are also warning labels in this area also. Please take note of those also. Generalized view of the top of the apparatus. You can see you've got your 3 sections of hose areas, and just to the front of that section, also for your water fill tank, and we'll talk a little bit about more of that. Your equipment ladder rack is equipped with a 14-foot roof and a 24-foot extension. The next image shows it in its full upright position with the ladder rack in a locked position. Looking at the very top of your apparatus, on the left-hand side is your water tank fill from the top section. Moving to the right, you'll see with the large A, this is your foam fill for foam A. Moving up forward to that location, you have your two telescoping lights, center-mounted deluge, and to the right of that, this is going to be your hydraulic oil fill reservoir. Your vehicle is equipped with a TFT extend-a-gun. It also offers the ability to raise that monitor up above the cab height. This is going to be your hydraulic oil fill location. Just to the front of that, a little bit hard to see, but there is a gauge for indication of its level. Moving further forward, these are the two cross lays which are pre-plumbed for 1.5 inch discharge ports. This is going to show the ladder in its downward position. Looking from the rear of the apparatus toward the front of the apparatus, you can see in the upper section you have two pike poles located on the very top of this, in addition with a third location for another long pole storage. On the lower section, this is a 10-foot attic or folding ladder. At the very top section of your apparatus, you'll also see that there is a side-facing flood, in addition with the very rear section of a warning light. In the very front section of your apparatus, on the ladder rack, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner, this is the location when the ladder is in its stored position. That lock will come and secure the ladder rack so that it will not move. We're now looking at the rear section of the passenger side. Looking inside this compartment, you can see that there are two adjustable shelves. At the very lower section of this, a pull-out shelf similar to the opposite side. Looking at your horizontal compartment, just inside the horizontal compartment, there is a single adjustable shelf. Looking just beneath this section of the horizontal compartment, you'll find the two additional access points, front and rear. This is for bottle storage in addition with safety straps. You'll also find your center mounted just above the tire warning light. As we look further down to the front of that wheel, you'll find a marker light in addition with a warning label regarding your exhaust. Do not touch the tailpipe or do not park near flammable objects. This is the location of your tailpipe. As we look up into this compartment, you'll find two adjustable shelves in this location. We're now going to go ahead and take a look at the midsection or mid pump area. As you can see at the very top, we saw this image earlier with the adjustable pole light on the very top. This is also a generalized view. There are two compartment doors here that have access points behind it. We'll talk a little about that in the next set of images. And this is also where you control your ladder rack. Behind this location is your hydraulic fill location for that ladder rack, in addition with your intake relief valve. Moving to the upper right-hand side of that image, you can now see a water strainer. And once again, upper right-hand section of that, this image is showing your intake relief, but just to the right of that is the water strainer. The next image here is your powered equipment rack. Simply turn it to the on position, illuminates the green light, and you can determine whether you want to up or down on the lift lever. Once again, this is tubbed out similar to the other side for large diameter hose. but let's go ahead and talk about some of the components in this area. We'll first start down in the lower left-hand corner. This is your intake relief valve drain. Moving over to the opposite side of this pump panel, to the right, this is going to be the location for your passenger side auxiliary inlet. This is the drain for that location. Moving just to the right-hand side of that location, this is going to be a 2.5 auxiliary inlet. And moving further forward of that, you are assigned color-coded drain valves. This is your large diameter passenger side drain, in addition with number 2 crosslay and discharge and number 1 crosslay drains. Generalized view of the front section of the cab. We're going to go ahead and start looking at some of the components within inside the front of your cab. Let's first start on the driver's side. When you first open the door, you'll notice there is some warning labels in addition with some reflective tape. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about those warning labels. In the next set of images, we'll talk about some of those components also. Please read those warning labels as they apply to you and for your own safety. This is going to be the rear section of the door. You can see the handle with an automatic window. These are fall hazards in addition with SCBA information and crush hazards. Please pay attention to the warning labels. They are labeled here on all doors. This is going to be the latch. You can see it's currently in the red position. Move that to lock the latch. Generalized view from the outside looking in. We'll go ahead and get started with some of the components on the left-hand side. This bank of switches controls your windows for all of the windows within inside the cab that are electronic. There are going to be some warning labels on the seat. This is an adjustable seat. There are controls within the bottom section of the seat, just underneath the front section of the seat. Behind the seat, there's also going to be a handle here. This is the handle for tilting manually your cab. Moving to the rear section here as a downward image. There are 2 shore power outlets here. This is also the location of your auto charger from shore power for the batteries of your vehicle. There is also going to be your amplifier located in the red. As we move further down or just to the left a little bit here, this is going to be your shore outlets for 20 amp. This is for when you're plugged into shore power. You can have things inside the cab that you can operate while on shore power. This is going to be your federal amplifier. Let's go ahead and look down at about foot level here. You'll see the warning labels in orange and caution labels, and there is also a yellow placard just to the right of that. This yellow placard is your Pierce information placard from the manufacturer. This is assigned to Roseburg Fire Department. This will also indicate its date of manufacture. It also gives the job number. It also provides you with gross vehicle weight ratings and additional fluid capacities. As we move just forward of that location near the pedals, this is going to be the command zone ports. There's also engine diagnostic and transmission diagnostic ports, and also regen information at the very lower section here. Moving up from this location here, we're going to find this is the quarter turn battery switch in red. Moving up from this location, you're going to find 3 switches on the left-hand side. One is going to be your ignition, the other is going to be a start, and the very one at the top in red is going to be your hazard or warning flashers. Just down about knee height here on the steering column, this is going to be your windshield wipers. It's also going to be your high and low beam headlights. You can also see in this same area on the column, this is the push for telephoto and pull for tilting. Moving just to the left-hand side, this is going to be your emergency master switch, in addition with the on-off for your running and headlights. And to the right of that, the switch labeled panel is for increasing or decreasing the brightness of your panel lights. To the right of that, on the opposite side of the column, this is going to be an OK for high idle illuminated green light, in addition with the switch to engage high idle. Looking up once again, ignition, start, and your hazard lights, but let's now take a look at your dash. Let's go ahead and start in the lower left-hand corner. This is your transmission temperature. Moving over to the other side, this is going to be your oil pressure. Moving up from that, this is another gauge for your DEF, which is also the same gauge on the exterior of the apparatus. This is going to be your water temperature moved up from there. In the two center gauges, your RPMs or tachometer. On the right-hand side, miles per hour. Moving to the further right-hand side of this is your volts, fuel, front air, and rear air. As you also can see, there are information centers in the center and just above. When the vehicle is turned on and your ignition is turned on, you will find that everything will illuminate as it is in this picture here, which will indicate all the different types of information regarding your apparatus. Let's now move just to the right of this location from the operator. Moving to the right-hand side, you'll find your square parking system brake in yellow. You'll find your command zone, transmission, a variety of switches, and we'll now talk about the command zone here. This is a touch button on the very bottom to access the menu. This will also give you information regarding seat belts and where people are located. As we move further across, you can see this is your Allison transmission pad, and we'll talk a little bit about each of those controls here in the next set of images. Moving just to the right of the Pierce Command Center is your Allison transmission pad. This is to select the gear you're choosing to drive in, but I want you to notice at the very top the pump in drive note in yellow. Moving to the right of that, the very top section of switches, you can see illuminated in the green is your perimeter lights, and on the right are your load manager. The individual switches that are located here in this area are future locations for future switches. Moving down to the next section, this is going to be your engine brake on-off. You have the ability to choose low, medium, or high. And on the far right-hand side, this is a switch for your mirror heat, and you can see our 3 future switches in this location also. Moving further to the right, at the very top section, this is the left and right mirror control for your mirrors on the exterior of the apparatus. Moving down just from that, this is going to be your shift road to pump or pump to road. This is an OK engage the pump and an OK to pump. These are both green indicators. Follow the instructions on the right-hand side or left-hand side, depending on what you choose. In the very back section, you can see a 12-volt socket here, either a cigarette light or 12-volt access. Once again, generalized view. Let's take a look at the very top section of the cowling here, and you'll see this is the Pierce Control Center for climate control. Let's take a look at that in the next set of images here. Starting in the gray area, this is going to be for your heat and defrost. In the red section, this is for your heat, and in the blue section, this is for your air conditioning. We're going to go ahead and look just above the operator's head. You can see a variety of different panels up in the very top here, but what I'd like to direct you toward is the yellow placard on the very left-hand side. This is the placard that indicates from when it came from Pierce, the manufacturer, that it has a height of 10 feet 3 inches, a length of 31 feet 10, and a gross vehicle weight rating of basically 21.75 tons. This also indicates your job number. This is without any modifications, and if you make any modifications, please change that placard. At the very top in the upper left-hand corner, this is going to be your emergency master, roof light, front warning, side warning, rear warning, and upper rear warning, a future switch, and your Opticom. Moving just to the right of that under the under section, this is a focused spotlight that faces downward toward the driver steering wheel. Moving just above that, you can see there is a future location which currently houses a storage location. Moving to the right of that, we'll talk a little bit about those future switches here in the next set of images, and I have some more close-ups of that also. but I would like to point out you also have clear plexiglass tinted visors. Once again, this is your emergency master, roof light, front warning, side warning, rear lower warning lights, upper rear warning, a future location for a future switch, and this is the Opticom for accessing that. Once again, this is that section that is designed for storage, but can also be switched out for additional switches if need be. Moving to the right of that location, you're going to find your electronic siren, siren brake, driver side flood, passenger side flood, front scene, driver side scene, passenger side scene, and rear scene. Located in the center between the passenger and the operator, you're going to find this red warning light. This is indication that you have a compartment door open or ajar. And as we look further just in to the rear of that light, you'll find in the very center 3 components in this spot. Looking on the very left-hand side, you'll also see the 2 ropes that come down. Those are for activation of your air horns. Either the passenger or a driver could activate those. Looking in the upper left-hand corner in the center, once again, this is your traffic advisor, indicating for left, right, split, or flash, with a low on-off switch here on the left-hand side. Moving to the center of this location, this is going to be an additional seatbelt information guide. This provides information to everyone within the cab if they have their seatbelt on. You can see the upper left-hand corner indicating that the red is the driver and that currently the belt is not on. Moving just to the right of that, this is going to be your siren information NPA. Looking from the front of the cab toward the rear section, you can see you have your headsets located in the upper right and left side. There are 2 forward-facing SCBA mounts and a center mount console with a roll-up door. Let's go ahead and look at the outside looking in. You can see the warning labels on the left-hand side of the door. In addition, they're also on the opposite side of the door. You have an in-compartment refrigerator. Looking generally over at the top, this is going to be your air conditioning vent system. There is also on the opposite side of this location, driver's side, a rear-facing SCBA seat. Both the seats in the rear, forward-facing, are fold-down type seats. You can see it's currently in its folded-up position. This is going to be a generalized view from the driver's side rear section looking forward. Looking in between the refrigerator and the rear-facing seat, there's going to be an access location here. Once this door is accessed, this will give you access for quickly checking your oil and transmission levels. There is also a push on-off light up in the upper right-hand corner. Looking to the very rear of the apparatus, this is the roll-up door. There are 2 adjustable shelves in this compartment. And just at the very bottom, which is not pictured in this image, but in the next image, you can see that you have shore power outlet. This is going to be a 20 amp shore power. This is in the lower section on the passenger side. We're now moving to the passenger seat. As you can see, once again, on all doors, you have reflective tape on the lower section. Just above that, there is your warning or hazard labels. And just above that, this is going to be your pull to open the door handle. This is the lever that allows you to lock the door from the inside of the cab and allows you to pull to unlock the door and move into the open position. Let's go ahead and take a look at the passenger seat. Just from underneath the passenger seat, you have a grab bar for pulling it forward and backwards, and you also have an air inflated up and down for comfort. As we look to the front, sitting in the passenger seat, the lower section is going to be the compartment to access electronics. Just below that, not pictured in this image, there is also the fill for your windshield wiper. Moving up, you have a push button for your glove box and a handle. This is your access point for your glove box. Moving up from that is your handle, and you can see in the upper left-hand corner in the silver with the black cap on it, that's going to be a 12-volt outlet on battery power. Moving just above that, this is going to be your map light. The switch on this map light is located just on the housing of the map light. Makes it easy for push on and push off. As we look more toward the left or center of the cab, you'll find that there is an access port on the left-hand side. This is going to be a 12-volt USB charging style for 12 volt. Moving to the front of that, you'll find this is going to be your port for vehicle data. This is the image showing those 12-volt USB style DC. Moving to the very front of that, you'll find the vehicle data recorder. Looking just overhead in the very center, this is going to be an on-off switch for a focused beam or spotlight for map book reading. And we'll go ahead and talk about the cluster of switches just to the right of that. This is going to be your scene brake, a future location for additional switch, driver side and passenger side floods. On the next section down, you'll find your front scene, driver side scene, and passenger side scene, in addition with a rear scene light on the far right. There's also a compartment for storage in between those two components. And on the very far left, or as we consider to the center of the cab, this is going to be your fire comm system. This is accessing for controlling the fire comm system. And if you have any questions, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. And congratulations, Roseburg Fire, on your new apparatus, job number 29489. Thank you.